Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our webinar. We're holding this fireside chat in observance of the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, which is this coming Sunday. This year's theme is Building Together Forward, and that could not be more in line with how we see poverty eradication at Brac. Only by working together can we end poverty in all its forms. As many of you know, there has been tremendous progress on poverty eradication in recent years. This is the first time that we see backsliding. In the past year and a half, about 100 million additional people have been pushed into extreme poverty due to COVID-19. Today, you'll be hearing more about that from Rasha Natour, Senior Advocacy Manager from our Ultra Poor Graduation Initiative. Thank you for being here, Rasha. But first, I'm going to give you just a little bit of a brief overview about Brac. So Brac was founded in 1972 in Bangladesh, nearly 50 years ago. Bangladesh was then one of two poorest countries on earth. A brutal civil war that led to its independence had left the country just absolutely devastated. Brac was founded by this man that you see on this slide here, Fazle Hassan Abed. He was working at the time as an executive for Shell Oil Company, but seeing the devastation of the people in his home country left him feeling that his life and work really had no meaning. So he sold his flat in London, and using the proceeds, he founded Brac. So I often say that Abed is the original social entrepreneur because from these very humble beginnings in one of the then poorest countries on earth, Brac has grown to become one of the largest, most effective non-governmental organizations in the world. There are several factors that make Brac unique, and here you see on this slide a number of them. Most distinctly, Brac is the only NGO of its scale to have been founded in the Global South and continues to be led from the Global South. All of our work is focused on reaching the poorest and most excluded, with a particular focus on women and girls. Poverty and inequality are complex, so our solutions are multifaceted. We run programs in health, education, youth empowerment, skills development, microfinance, agriculture, and much more. Everything we do is designed to operate at scale. Our founder was famous for saying, "Small is beautiful, but scale is necessary." Now, many organizations do this today, but Brac was one of the first to use an iterative approach, pioneering innovations, rigorously testing those, failing fast, figuring it out, and then scaling. Finally, Abed was a businessman, and Brac has also always been very business-minded. One of the things that's very unique about Brac is that we combine social enterprises together with social development programs. The social enterprises are businesses that are aimed at a problem of poverty, but that also generate profits. Today, Brac has 13 social enterprises, everything ranging from menstrual hygiene pads to potted plants and seeds to cold potato storage, salt iodization, and even to silkworm and poultry farms. The earnings from these businesses provide flexible funding for our social development work. I'll give you two examples. The first is the Brac Dairy. And the Brac Dairy was founded after Abed, our legendary founder, saw that the women who had been receiving microfinance loans in the rural areas had much healthier cows, much healthier lives. Cows were producing excess milk, and there was nowhere to sell it. So Abed said, look at what they're selling it for in the rural areas and what I'm paying for it in the capital city of Dhaka, and decided there was a market opportunity. So he took that opportunity, and they set up 8 chilling plants around the country and started purchasing from the women and selling into Dhaka. Today, it's a very big business and kicks off a very nice profit. It's also increased nutrition in the country, and at the same time has provided a wonderful livelihood for many of these women farmers in the rural areas. We have another one that is probably the best known, which is Erang. It's another social enterprise. It's a retail chain that stretches across the country. And Brac would teach women how to sew fabric, and then would sell their products in the shops in the cities. So So a number of things that Erang does differently from most retailers, including most retailers buy on consignment. So the women don't get paid until the product is ultimately sold to a customer. Erang pays them right up front. They pay them immediately. And today, Erang harnesses the skills of over 65,000 artisans through a vast network of rural production centers. It's one of the largest lifestyle retail chains in Bangladesh. And so next time you're in Dhaka, you will have to stop in. On this next slide, you'll see a number of quotes from people who have commented about Brac. Brac has received very generous praise about its work, as you'll see here. Because we were founded in Bangladesh rather than in the US or the UK or Europe, we're not as well known as other organizations, which is echoed in Nick Kristoff's quote that Brac is the best aid group you've never heard of. And both Bill Gates and Bill Clinton highlight just how Brac has been able to do what few others have. Now, with that, I would like to hand it over to my wonderful colleague, Rasha, to talk about one of Brac's most important and most impactful programs, the Ultra-Poor Graduation Program. It's especially an honor to share how at Brac we have worked towards ending extreme poverty, particularly through this Ultra-Poor Graduation Program, which was founded by Brac nearly 20 years ago in Bangladesh and has since been adopted globally. So with that, I will hand it to you, Rasha.
Thank you so much, Donella. And as Donella mentioned, my name is Rasha Natour, and I'm the Senior Advocacy Manager for Brac's Ultra-Poor Graduation Initiative. And it's an honor to be here with you today commemorating International Day for the Eradication of Poverty with all of you who are watching. And it's especially an honor to share how we at Brac have worked towards ending extreme poverty, particularly through the Ultra-Poor Graduation Program, which was founded by Brac nearly 20 years ago in Bangladesh and has been adopted globally since then. So before diving into the graduation approach, I like to start with the origin story and some background information because it reflects why Brac is such a unique organization. So in the late 1990s, Brac was already one of the largest organizations operating in Bangladesh, and it was running a really large microfinance program. And while it was really impactful for so many women and households, it was not having the same level of impact for the poorest, particularly those living in what we refer to as extreme or ultra poverty. And it's of course important to explain what we mean by the poorest, as it helps explain why the graduation approach is so successful and so innovative. So when we think of poverty, we often first think of it in terms of money or the lack thereof. And that's, of course, one component. But poverty, and extreme poverty in particular, goes beyond income, and it's a result of multidimensional needs. There's a financial component of having an income below $1.90 USD a day. But there's also a high level of food insecurity and malnutrition, despite a high percentage of income going to food. People living in extreme poverty are often disconnected from services, resources, markets, and opportunities such as quality healthcare, education, and livelihoods. People living in extreme poverty often live in isolated and hard-to-reach areas, which exacerbates these access issues. And oftentimes, these are predominantly female-headed households, meaning they also experience the implications of gender discrimination and inequality quite strongly. And so recognizing the multitude and compounding nature of these various challenges and barriers, Brac designed a program called the Graduation Approach, which looks beyond income and addresses the multidimensional needs of people living in extreme poverty and breaks the cycle of poverty for these communities. So we're going to take a moment to watch this beautiful animated video that explains more about the poverty trap and how the graduation approach works to break it.
For the first time in decades, poverty rates are rising, unraveling years of progress. Millions more people will fall into extreme poverty. They face hardships at every turn. Lack of food, clean water, education, healthcare, a steady income. The extreme poor are often isolated, cut off from society, stripped of their dignity and self-worth. more concerned about their children's next meal than planning for the future, struggling to live a life beyond one of survival. The poverty trap is real, and a big push is needed for people to lift themselves out of poverty and build resilience to avoid sliding back into the same trap. Brac's graduation approach is one proven big push solution. At Brac, we believe it's unjust that hundreds of millions of people live in such dire circumstances, and we're committed to helping them lift themselves out of poverty. So we tailored our approach to address their specific needs and vulnerabilities. We transfer assets, provide financial literacy and technical skills to participants so they can start their own businesses. And we offer additional support such as food stipends and healthcare. A coach provides ongoing visits to check their basic needs are met, building their skills and confidence along the way. Many former participants have become active leaders in their communities. They advocate for access to public services. They challenge gender discrimination. They speak out against issues such as early marriage and female genital mutilation. This time-bound, adaptive, holistic approach is resource-intensive, but it works. And it's sustainable, making it more cost-effective than most interventions. And other organizations have found success through adaptation of our graduation approach, successfully graduating 3.1 million households out of extreme poverty. We are committed to creating and expanding effective solutions. Brac has adapted the graduation approach in 14 different countries. In Bangladesh, Brac has helped more than 2 million households graduate from extreme poverty. Building off the success of the Bangladesh program, Brac has directly implemented and provided technical assistance on graduation in 13 additional countries, and we intend to expand further by integrating graduation into existing government programs. In the coming years, we aim to graduate another 21 million people, but we cannot do it alone. To truly move the needle on ending extreme poverty, we need governments and global actors to take the lead. Without intervention, these hardships will only become greater. But by advocating for those living in extreme poverty, we will ensure no one is left behind.
So now that we covered some background information, we can dive into what is the graduation approach. It was pioneered by Brac in 2002, and as the video noted, it's a combination of interventions that address the holistic and multidimensional needs to break the poverty trap by creating a big push out of extreme poverty. And it's a series of 4 core pillars that we find foundational for success and impact, which you see on the screen. And those 4 pillars are social protection, which provides immediate relief for basic needs, livelihoods promotion, which focuses on developing productive income-generating activities, financial inclusion, which provides support for income management, increased financial literacy, and increased savings, and last but not least, social empowerment, which includes coaching and mentoring to promote inclusion and behavior change. And each pillar has a set of interventions within it that are adapted to address the unique needs of the operating context in the impact community. But what we have found is that in order for the graduation approach to be as effective as possible, we do need these 4 core pillars in any context. And what's really exciting about the graduation approach is that rigorous independent research has proven that this approach is one of the most effective interventions for ending poverty and for breaking the poverty trap for the long term. The impact you see on the screen is based on participants in Bangladesh, and what's significant about these numbers is the continued upward trajectory 7 years after their participation in the program. And research indicates that this is fairly consistent 10 years following the program as well. And that's some research that will be coming out in the coming year. So what we see on the screen is even 7 years after the end of the program, participants in Bangladesh are still experiencing an increase in savings, an increase in land access, an increase in annual income, an increase in consumption, an increase in work productivity, an increase in the household assets that they're accumulating, a decrease in income inequality, and an increase in gender equality both at the household and the community level. So while the previous slide focuses on the impact we have seen in Bangladesh, extensive research and evaluations have been done that shows this impact goes beyond Bangladesh and is a scalable and proven solution to extreme poverty around the globe. So while the first two boxes on the screen highlight what was shared on the previous slides around the graduation approach being a big push out of extreme poverty and the long-term gains around income, savings, and consumption. But it's also a very adaptable program, which is obviously critical for scaling. We have seen that it can be adapted to meet the unique needs of different marginalized groups, including women, youth, the elderly, people living with disabilities, as well as refugees and internally displaced peoples. And it can also be adapted for various operating contexts to support people living in extreme poverty in rural or urban contexts or climate and conflict-affected contexts. And it also supports emergency response, recovery, and resilience for those communities experiencing extreme poverty, which is quite relevant in this time given the global pandemic. And the potential for impact is consistent across the globe. It's proven to be replicable and scalable globally with nearly 100 graduation programs operating in over 40 countries by Brac and our partners who have adopted their approach. And as we enter the decade of action and we're 10 years away from the Sustainable Development Goals, it's important to note that the graduation approach contributes to multiple Sustainable Development Goals at once, which is one of the reasons we see significant potential if this is scaled globally. In addition to the obvious one around SDG 1 on ending extreme poverty, it also contributes to SDG 2 on no hunger, SDG 3 on good health and well-being, 5 on gender equality, 8 on decent work and economic growth, SDG 10 on reduced inequalities, and SDG 17 on partnerships. And building off all of this on significant impact from the graduation approach that really led to the launch of the Ultra-Poor Graduation Initiative, which builds off of the great body of evidence and focuses on the scaling of this approach as a solution to ending extreme poverty across the globe. So I wanted to share with you all our strategic vision to share what we hope to achieve through the Ultra-Poor Graduation Initiative and how we hope to achieve this. So as you can see, our impact that we hope to achieve by 2026 is that we hope to contribute to breaking the poverty trap for 21 million people through the scaling and adoption of the graduation approach by government actors and other agents of change. Our key strategies look to shape the global and regional dialogues while working in key countries to support government adoption through policies and programs. And we also look to support a strong, sustainable civil society. And the main approaches we'll employ to achieve this are advocating for policy change at the global, regional, national level, providing technical assistance and capacity building to ensure that programs and policies reach the extreme poor, raising awareness and encouraging action through communications and information sharing, and of course, using our learning and evidence to promote effective implementation and inform policy recommendations. So what I've shared has been really high level, but now we'll hear directly from two women in Bangladesh, Jarna and Morshida, on how the graduation approach has impacted their lives.
Bangladesh is home to an estimated 160 million people. It is one of the world's poorest and most densely populated countries. Women like Jarna and Morshida have lived most of their lives in extreme poverty. But their poverty does not define them. These women have something in common. They have the courage and resilience to lift themselves up. They are emerging agents of change. They are leaders in their communities. How did they do it? First, Brac worked with community members to identify families in desperate need of support. They chose Jarna and Morshida to participate in Brac's Ultra-Poor Graduation Program. The graduation approach is holistic and comprehensive. It combines sustainable livelihood development with financial and social empowerment. In just 24 months, families graduate out of extreme poverty, learn new skills, and find community acceptance. Working one-on-one with a Brac staff member, Jarna gained the skills and confidence to start her own business. She received a stipend for food so she could focus all her energy on getting out of poverty. Today, she is a savvy entrepreneur.
আমি যখন আগে ঝালমুড়ি বিক্রি করছি তখন ওটার থেকে এখন আমার আচারের ব্যবসাটা বেশি চলে, এটা বাইচা নিয়েছি। এটার পরে যখন দেখা যাচ্ছে আমার এটা ইনকাম করতেছে না, তখন আমি আরেকটা ব্যবসা বাইচা নেব। ওনাকে চেয়ে দোয়াগুলো অনেক ভালো আছে, সামনে এর চেয়ে আরও ভালো থাকতে চাই, এই দোয়া চাই আমি সবার কাছে।
আমার বাবা মা ছোট্ট থাকাতে বিয়ে দিয়েছে, ছোট্ট থাকাতে বিয়ে দিয়েছে। আমি হওয়ার পর দুটো মেয়ে দুটো হওয়ার পর আবার আমার স্বামী হঠাৎ করিয়ে প্রতিবন্ধী হয়ে গেল।
Mosheda remembers her home falling apart after her husband became ill.
প্রতিবন্ধী হলো তখন আমি কি করি, ওই বাচ্চা নিয়ে।
Through the graduation program, she soon realized that she had all the tools and support she needed to become a strong leader.
আমি এখন দরিদ্র মানুষের মেম্বারের কাছ থেকে এটা ওটা নিয়ে দিতে পারি। আমি পল্লী সমাজের গেছি।
Today, she helps village leaders identify other women from her community who could benefit from working with Brac. When the courageous participants of Brac's graduation program meet women just like them, they tell their story. Their success shows women that they too can lift themselves out of poverty. Brac is working with partner organizations, governments, and philanthropists to share this approach and end extreme poverty for good.
I hope you found the video as moving as I did. Jarna and Morshida's journey is so inspirational, and we hope that women around the world will be able to share their experience of moving beyond poverty and into endless opportunities. Before handing it back to Donella, I just wanted to end with this quote from our late founder, Sir Faisal Hassan Abid, as it captures our vision so well of moving beyond just income and towards a better quality of life across all aspects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rasha. One of the questions that we often get when we speak to people is, what can I do? How can I help? How can I get involved? So on this slide here, we include a few ideas. So first of all, learn. You can stay updated on our work by signing up for our newsletter on our Brac USA website. We've included the link here. We've also included Brac social media channels, which are fairly easy to find online as well. Activate yourself and your network by supporting really all global efforts to empower people in poverty. I think, as you can appreciate from the stories that we've shared, the hardships that some people live with are absolutely devastating. The more that we can do to help them, the better. And of course, I can't ever miss an opportunity to suggest that people also consider sharing their financial resources. You can make a donation and learn about other ways to contribute on our Brac USA website. We're fortunate that we have our social enterprises, but our ability to innovate and support social development programs like the graduation approach really depend on philanthropy. So to the extent that you can support our work, we would be most grateful. And now I'm going to switch to some Q&A. So Rasha, if you will join me here to discuss a few questions from our supporter base. So the first one I'd like to ask is, why do you think Brac's graduation approach has been so successful?
That's a really great question. I think that the commitment to learning and innovation that's embedded in Brac's history has resulted in a lot of success. I think it's a unique characteristic to be able to take a step back from something that's been so rigorously designed and ensure that it's working as intended, and allow the space to make changes to ensure that the results are connecting and aligning with the intended impact. And I think it's this mentality that allowed the graduation to evolve into what it is today. The rigorous targeting, the holistic approach, the unique coaching and mentoring component, and the close monitoring are all byproducts of what I think is an ethos and commitment to impact, which drives the work and drives the innovation at the organization.
Great, thank you. The second question is also for you. What is the impact of the graduation approach over time? And why should stakeholders such as governments or corporations or donors support the approach?
I think that this is a really important question, especially given how many interventions exist in the big realm of the development space. And we touched on this slightly during the presentation around the impact, which includes an increase in assets and income, improved livelihoods, better consumption, more gender equality, and even we have reported an increase in happiness among participants, which is significant. But I think the main reason it should be supported by these agents of change like governments and donors and private sector actors is because of the continued upward trajectory that participants experience. It's actually quite unique to have a development intervention with such long-term and sustained impact. And the evidence here is quite significant for influencing poverty eradication efforts, as well as ensuring inclusive recovery and growth as we consider the after effects and the ongoing impacts of a global pandemic. And we're looking at how do we overcome this in a way that doesn't leave anyone behind. And so we really saw the importance of and the need to build resilience to unexpected shocks, whether that's climate change or a health epidemic and pandemic like Ebola and COVID, and the need to start designing programs with intention of being shock resilient and to enable inclusive growth that mitigates these risks and brings everyone along. So I think that all of the evidence, there's such a rich body of evidence behind the graduation approach that it shows that this can accomplish this if it's scaled intentionally and effectively.
That's great. Thank you. Really appreciate that. This next one is a question for both of us. Personally, what inspires you most about Brac's work? What compels you to join Brac and help amplify its impact? I continue to be so inspired by being with Brac that I'll take this one first. After starting my career in the for-profit world, I've had the good fortune to work for some amazing nonprofit organizations, first in higher education, then in global healthcare, and also in microfinance or financial inclusion. Brac is really a leader in all of these. It's one of the largest microfinance providers in the world. It has an extraordinarily large cadre of community healthcare workers, and there's even a Brac University, one of the leading universities in Bangladesh with over 11,000 students. So for me, it was an opportunity to leverage all my experiences at an organization that's achieving impact at tremendous scale. And I was especially inspired by the impact and the fact that Brac takes a business approach to solving poverty, especially given that I have a business background. How about you, Rasha?
That's great, Donella. It's great to hear what inspires you about your work here. For me, I think it's the impact, it's that long-term and sustained impact of Brac's work, which is the biggest motivation. I've worked in many contexts and witnessed firsthand programming that either had minimal impact or had short-term impact that fizzled out after a period because it didn't address the holistic needs of the community. And so being in, I've actually been in the nonprofit space for a while, so it's funny that, we both have found ourselves here. But I found that being in the nonprofit space, because I'm very passionate about working towards a positive change, it's really important to me that my intention matches the impact of the work that I do. And so with Brac being a leading organization, given its roots in the global South and a strong connection with communities it works with, I wanted to be part of an organization that had significant evidence behind their efforts to show that this works, here's the proof, and who's going to work with us to make it happen, and that it really starts at the community level. So it's just so inspiring to see the impact that some of that is reflected in what we shared today with those videos.
Wonderful. Well, I certainly couldn't be happier than to have you on board in a very new role, by the way, for Brac. So here's another question. What do you think is the biggest challenge that Brac faces going forward? So why don't I take that one? The biggest challenges as we think about going forward, it would be hard not to mention COVID-19 here because of the impact that it has had on people in poverty. The pandemic has pushed, as we said at the start, millions of people into poverty, and many who are already living in poverty have been pushed into extreme poverty. So that has made the work that Brac does just that much more urgent and necessary. There are challenges like food insecurity and unemployment, gender-based violence has been on the rise. A number of things have happened as a result of COVID-19. So now more than ever, the world needs these holistic, proven approaches that really meet the needs of those who are most affected by the pandemic and help them reach their full potential. I think my other response would be around funding streams. Unlike the for-profit sector, as I was describing before, there you can develop an ongoing revenue stream or a customer client base, one that's pretty steady. For those of us who are trying to affect social change, the funding streams can be really erratic and unpredictable. So all of our grants take an enormous amount of time and effort. Even when they're only 1 year long, you can spend, 3 months or more just writing the proposal and then doing the paperwork and reporting and all. And though those individual projects can make a really big difference for the people directly involved, the beneficiaries of those programs, trying to have impact at scale is really challenging with unpredictable funding. Our work in Bangladesh is all designed around scale, and because we have the social enterprises that generate a more predictable and unrestricted stream of revenue, we can do that kind of innovative and sustained work that's required to really have impact at scale. But we're still striving to fully replicate that in our other countries, given how unpredictable the sources of funding are. So one final question here for both of us and to close. What is one takeaway that you'd like attendees of this event to have about the work that Brac is doing to create opportunities for women in poverty? You want to start, Rasha?
Sure. I would hope that the takeaway is that we can create opportunities for women in poverty and that it is possible. I think it's very easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale and depth of poverty around the world and around our own communities. And so my main message would be that it's not a permanent state. It's not that this is just how it is. There's haves and have-nots, but there's in fact something that we can all do to change it. And I think the evidence behind Brac's work proves this. And before the global pandemic, the global numbers of poverty prove this too, as global poverty rates have been reducing since 1998. Unfortunately, we're now facing a situation where millions of people have been pushed into extreme poverty, and some people are experiencing poverty for the first time because of the pandemic. But the positive note is that we do have proven solutions that we can invest in and that we can scale, and that as we're doing this, we need to ensure that it's serving the people experiencing the highest levels of marginalization, but we have models that work to do this. And so very much that it's possible, and it's something within the realm of possibilities would be my main message and what I hope people take away from this.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I would add to that to never underestimate the power of hope. It's amazing to see what women in particular can do when they realize that they have the power to change their lives and become agents of their own change. Our founder really believed in the power of hope, and we have seen that over and over again. So thank you all so much for joining. As I mentioned earlier, please do follow us on social media. We'll have additional materials posted over the weekend and throughout next week. And we hope that you'll continue to follow us on our journey to seek an end to poverty in all its forms around the world. Thank you so much.